Hi, and welcome back to Mindful Pulse episode 5. Today, we're going to be talking about what it truly means to be a father. I think the first thing to acknowledge is that when you become a father, it's an incredible feeling. It's a feeling, at least in my case, of excitement. Not so much fear, but just excitement about what's to come. And then, of course, the reality sinks in terms of the amount of sacrifice that you have to immediately make, starting with sleep deprivation. Even though I have to say that my wife was absolutely incredible every time, and she took the vast majority of the brunt of sleep deprivation, and she was the one taking care of my sons at the early stage, and you're never prepared for something like this. So in our case, our families are overseas in Europe and in Asia, and so that makes it that much more difficult. And looking back, there are things that I wish I didn't do, because I feel that I let down my wife more than I should have, alleviating her in the pain and the difficulty and the tiredness of taking care of young children when I was traveling a lot. And I recognize that, and it's certainly a pain that I carry with me, because it is not easy, guys, and it is not for the faint of heart to raise kids. Here in this country in particular, where everything is so expensive, so without a family support, it makes it much more difficult. So that is something that anyone that is looking and contemplating about having kids should definitely be mindful of. But having said that, you learn, you grow. Becoming a father is ultimately, to me, what gives life its true meaning, because you have a chance to truly enjoy life and share what are the most amazing things you could experience with your loved ones. And it's just, I think that's what humans are meant to be, or to become, have an extension of themselves and share love and share experiences. And I again, it's not for everybody, but I think that the fulfillment that you can get from raising a family is something that is that you cannot really describe in words. You have to live it, right? So that is the other observation that I have, which is that you should not really take advice especially from people that don't have kids. You will, figure it out on your own. It is at the very primal level something that we human have been doing and experiencing for thousands of years. So, but again, family support is a big deal. So let's talk about it. So ultimately, for me, becoming a father and being a father is really about protection. It's about protection at so many levels, right? Financially, you want to make sure that your family is protected, that your family is taken care of, that they have what they need to not just, live, but hopefully to grow and thrive. That means of course, shelter, food, and education, and if you're lucky, the ability to experience life in different countries and traveling, and we were blessed to get all of that. I mean, we didn't really have a choice because we're both not originally from the US. So between Asia and Europe, you can imagine the amount of travel we've been doing, and our kids, by the time they were 5, already had been around the world multiple times. So I think the protection comes in play financially. It's the additional realization that you cannot take harsh decisions. Rash decision, not harsh. Sometimes you have to take harsh decisions, but rush decisions, you have to be very mindful of the risk that a financial decision can engage for not just yourself, obviously, but for your family. And the best advice that I can give, actually, just about to anyone in America, is to make sure that you have a safety net and that you are able to live within your means. It's kind of a big deal, and I digress a little bit here because I think it's so relevant. It is so shocking to see that in America, but I don't know the exact stats, but I think it's about one person out of three doesn't have money for an emergency. Most people are living paycheck to paychecks, and they have the equivalent of $400 or maybe a couple of $1,000, which nowadays obviously is nothing, right? When it comes to an emergency, you go to want to change a set of tires. Here goes $600 or $700, right, for just one set. I know because that just happened to me a couple of weeks ago. So obviously you need to be able to put yourself in a situation where ideally you have at least 1 full year of protection from the element, from what's happening out there. So if you, God forbid, or your spouse, if she works or he works, were to lose their jobs, you'd still be able to live and be okay for a full 1 year. I know some people say, well, 6 months. I think that 6 months is not enough. I think 1 year is the right number. So, let's say that, your combined income is $200,000. Well, ideally you should be having $200,000 cash in one of those high yield savings accounts that nowadays can provide about 5% or more, which is not too bad. I know with inflation that when you are in cash, you are effectively going to be having some of that cash being eaten away by inflation, but it's the price of being able to sleep well at night and being able to take a step back whenever you need, and certainly not panic if and when you lose your job. And it also provides you with potentially opportunities, right? Because arguably $200,000 is a nice down payment on a house in California. So protection, making sure that you have what you need to get yourself, to never get yourself in a situation where you have a lot of stress and potentially expose your family to a lot of risks. So things like, healthcare, things like life insurance, things like having a minimum cushion funding for your family, 6 months minimum, a year ideally. I think that's really, really important, and it really, to me, signified the primary responsibility for a father, for being a father. The second thing is you have to be fair, kind of like when you manage a team, but you also have to be firm and you have to establish boundaries, because kids will always test you. And I think that the role of a dad is definitely to be that voice of higher authority and establishing the rules and the guideline and making sure that kids from an early age understand what respect and being respectful means. It can be a bit challenging, sometimes for women or for a mother to establish those parameters because women have carried that child, right? So there is that incredible bond between a child and a mother, and where is the line between the incredible love that you have for your children and then the ability to really be strict on certain level. Not that we don't love our children unconditionally, of course, but I think for a father it's potentially a little bit easier to manage those tougher conversations. So the concept of protection, the concept of reinforcement, because ultimately, in my opinion, and that is a big subject right now as you look at Gen Z and the even younger generation, you have to prepare your kids to be a little bit tough. I highly recommend very active participation into sports, defense programs, whether it's jiu-jitsu or karate, but having a little bit of that early contact with what it means to be not punched in the face but challenged physically is incredibly beneficial. And certainly the whole idea of having to follow certain protocol and rules early on, the discipline of it all, I mean, that's an absolute must, in my opinion, for kids, let's say from early age through adolescence, right? And even more so as they go through adolescence, those critical years between 12 to 20 years old. The mere fact is, at that time, there is such an incredible internal war happening in their, bodies, and all of that energy needs to be spent somewhere, right? So sports itself is something that is incredibly beneficial. So the discipline factor, reinforcement, protection, very important. And then I think that you also have to become the hard truth teller, and early on, meaning that you have to be able to level with your children and really take a different tone sometimes to explain some facts of life so that they are, at least on a conceptual level, prepared. I certainly, because of what I went through recently with surgery, had to do a little bit of that. And I mean, it's no fun to, write a letter to your kids telling them what they should be doing, on a very practical level and without too much emotions. Things like, don't tell the bank right away that I'm gone. This is the credit card PIN password. This is what you need to do. Those are the accounts you need to go to withdraw cash. Fun fact, when you die, the bank will immediately stop access to your bank account, even from your wife or your kids. And you have to go through a whole process probate and whatnot to be able to collect money, which is insanity, right? Because presumably in a situation like this, your family would be in need of cash to just to take care of, let's say, burial expenses or whatnot. So just very down to earth practical things that the last piece that I think is important is for a dad is to transmit and to maintain history and traditions and memories of the loved ones, right? So there is a little bit of that duty that you have to carry on and pass through the memory of your grandfather or your dad, or I think that's how you spread love, and you spread, through multiple generations, the story of your family. So if I was to really summarize, you've got the father, the dad, the protector, the hard truth teller, the influencer, and the person who's going to help you open your horizon, and someone that will hopefully share his experience. Lastly, I think one of the biggest thing that happens once you have been a dad for many years is that you realize what is it that matters most in life, and that is to pass on your experience, give as much love as you can, because at the end of the day that's all we have, love, and not just in words but in things that you do. My mother used to say there is no love, there are only proof of love, and that is so true, right? So that love translates in things that you do on a day-to-day basis when nobody's watching, things that you do quietly, and it's a very humbling experience to be a dad, and I look forward to continuing on that journey. I feel very grateful that I have two fantastic kids, and I'm so proud of them, and I love them so much. I hope you enjoyed that video. You can check those other videos if you have time. Please share, like, and give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you soon. Happy Father's Day.